When I think about the hardest moments of my life, I remember the days when everything felt impossible. It wasn't just a matter of facing obstacles, it felt like the world itself was against me, like every step I took was met with resistance. I remember waking up some mornings not knowing how I was going to get through the day, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of my circumstances. I'm sure many of you here today know exactly what that feels like, the pressure of facing a challenge that seems insurmountable, the fear of failure creeping in, the doubts that cloud your mind. There was a time in my life when I felt like I was carrying the heaviest burden anyone could imagine. It wasn't one thing, it was a combination of everything that had stacked up over the years. Family expectations, personal setbacks, health struggles, you name it. All of it piled up, and I had to figure out how to carry it. For a long time, I believed that my circumstances defined me. I thought that because of what I lacked or the hurdles I had to jump over, I would never be able to live the life I truly wanted. It's easy to think that way when the road ahead looks too steep, too uncertain. But there was a moment, a turning point, when I realized something that changed everything. It was during one of the lowest points when I was sitting alone in my room, feeling completely defeated. I wasn't sure if I could keep going, but something deep inside me told me I had to try. I started asking myself, what if my struggles don't define me? What if they're the things that will build me? That's when I realized my resilience wasn't about waiting for things to get better on their own. It was about choosing to face the storm, even when I couldn't see the other side. It wasn't easy. There were days when I wanted to quit, days when the road seemed too long and the darkness too thick. But in those moments, I discovered something incredibly powerful, the strength that comes from having hope, even when everything feels hopeless. I realized that hope isn't something you find when everything is perfect or easy. Hope is what you choose, even when it feels like the world is falling apart around you. Through that journey, I learned that it's not the challenges we face that define us, but how we respond to them. Each struggle became an opportunity to grow stronger, to build resilience, and to remind myself that I was capable of more than I'd ever imagined. And in doing so, I found a new kind of strength, the kind that comes from within, the kind that says, I will rise again no matter what. That experience taught me a simple but powerful truth. Life is not about avoiding difficulties, it's about how we face them. It's about digging deep within ourselves, finding that spark of hope, and allowing it to guide us forward, one step at a time. Would you like me to continue with the rest of the speech, or just any part of this personal story? Our imperfections are something we often try to hide, something we fear will hold us back. But I've come to learn that embracing our imperfections is not a weakness, it's one of our greatest strengths. You see, we live in a world that constantly tells us we need to be perfect. We are bombarded with images, stories, and expectations of what we should look like, what we should achieve, how we should act. And yet, despite all of this, there is no such thing as perfection. Not in any of us. I remember a time in my life when I was obsessed with trying to fix every little flaw. Every single thing that didn't meet the world's idea of acceptable, I thought if I could just get everything right, then maybe I would feel worthy, maybe I would feel like I belonged. But no matter how much I tried to fit into this perfect image, the more I felt like I was losing myself. I wasn't being true to who I was. I was trying to be someone I wasn't. And in doing so, I was robbing myself of the chance to experience true growth. What I didn't realize at the time was that those very imperfections, the things I saw as failures, the things I tried to hide, were actually the things that made me unique, the things that gave me the ability to connect with others on a much deeper level. When I finally started to accept and embrace my flaws, that's when I started to feel free. I began to see that it's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to not be perfect. In fact, it's more than okay, it's necessary. We all have our struggles. Maybe it's a physical challenge, or emotional scars, or a past we wish we could change. But here's the truth, those imperfections are a part of us. They don't define us, but they shape us. They give us character, they give us depth, and they make us who we are. The more we accept them, the more we begin to understand that we don't have to be flawless to be valuable. We don't have to be without fault to be worthy of love, success, or happiness. The beauty of embracing imperfections is that it frees us from the endless pursuit of perfection, allowing us to be authentic, to be real. And when we are real, when we are truly ourselves, we can connect with others in a way that no perfect persona ever could. It's in our vulnerability, our openness, and our acceptance of who we truly are that we begin to find the strength to rise. I want you to think about the things you're most insecure about, the parts of yourself that you try to hide or change. What if you stopped trying to fix them? What if you allowed yourself to embrace those imperfections, to see them not as flaws, but as the marks of your life's journey? Because in the end, those imperfections aren't the things that make us weak. They're the things that make us human. They're the things that connect us to each other, that help us understand that we are all in this together, imperfect but resilient and capable of more than we could ever imagine. When we embrace our imperfections, we stop hiding from ourselves and we start stepping into the fullness of who we are meant to be. Let me know if you'd like to continue or adjust any of these parts. There's a powerful shift that happens when we stop focusing on what we lack and begin to focus on what we have. So often we find ourselves trapped in a mindset where our limitations become the only things we can see. We get caught up in the I can't and the it's impossible, and we start to believe that our current situation, our struggles, or even our past failures are the final word on what we can achieve. But I'm here to tell you that those limitations aren't the end of the story, they're just the beginning. When I look back on my life, I realize how many times I could have let my circumstances define my future. There were moments when I could have easily given in to the belief that I wasn't capable of more, that I wasn't enough. The world around me often told me what I couldn't do, what I wasn't capable of, based on the things I lacked or the challenges I faced. And for a time I believed it. But something changed when I started asking myself a different question. What if I focused on what was possible rather than what was impossible? When I shifted my perspective and stopped seeing the walls in front of me as obstacles I couldn't overcome, I began to realize that I had the power to create a path forward, even if I couldn't see it yet. In any difficult situation, there are always two ways to look at it. You can focus on the walls, the barriers, and the reasons you can't move forward, or you can focus on the doors that are still open, the opportunities that are still available, and the strengths within you that have yet to be realized. The truth is, there will always be challenges. There will always be reasons why something feels difficult or out of reach. But there will also always be a way forward if we're willing to look for it. I've learned that resilience isn't about ignoring the difficulties we face. It's about acknowledging them and then asking, what's next? It's about saying, yes, this is hard, but I can take one more step. I can find a way around this. I can use what I've got to make progress. There's always something we can do, even if it's just a small thing to start. And those small steps add up. When we focus on possibilities, we begin to see potential where others might see dead ends. We start to notice the ways in which we are capable, the ways in which we can grow, the ways in which we can contribute. Possibilities open up in front of us when we stop defining ourselves by what we don't have and start leaning into what we do have, the resources, the creativity, the willpower, and the resilience that exist within us all. It's not always easy to look beyond our limitations, especially when they seem so overwhelming, but when we do, we begin to unlock a new kind of power, the power to shape our future, the power to take charge of our own destiny. When you shift your focus from limitations to possibilities, your world changes. You begin to see opportunities where others see setbacks. You start to believe that even if the road ahead is difficult, it's still worth traveling. The possibilities are always there, but it's up to us to choose to see them. It's up to us to choose to believe in the power of what can be done, rather than getting bogged down in the belief that it's too hard, too far out of reach, or simply impossible. Because when you focus on possibilities, you begin to create the life you once thought was beyond your grasp. The only limitations that truly exist are the ones we place on ourselves. And when we let go of those, we open the door to everything we are capable of becoming. Let me know if you'd like to continue or refine any part. Our perspective shapes everything about how we experience the world. It's the lens through which we see not just the events of our lives, but the people, the challenges, and the possibilities. The amazing thing about perspective is that, unlike many other things in life, it's within our control. We might not always be able to control the circumstances we find ourselves in, but we always have a choice in how we respond to them. I've learned that a shift in perspective can completely change the trajectory of our lives. When I was younger, there were times when I felt trapped by my circumstances. I was overwhelmed by the things I couldn't do and frustrated by the walls that seemed to surround me. I thought that if I could just change the situation, if only things were different, then I would be happy. But as I grew older, I began to realize something powerful. It wasn't the circumstances themselves that were holding me back. It was the way I was choosing to see them. One day I asked myself what would happen if I saw my challenges not as barriers, but as opportunities. What if I looked at every setback as a chance to learn, to grow, and to build something better? It was in that moment of reflection that I started to realize the profound impact my perspective had on my journey. When you shift your perspective, you're no longer a victim of your circumstances, you become the creator of your experience. I know this might sound counterintuitive, especially when life feels like it's stacking up against you. But it's true. In every difficulty, there is a lesson. In every challenge, there's a hidden opportunity. The key is learning to look beyond the surface, beyond the immediate pain or frustration, and finding the meaning, the growth, and the strength that lies beneath. This is not to say that life doesn't have its fair share of hardship, of course it does. But when we choose to look at life through a lens of possibility, even the darkest moments become part of a bigger picture. Instead of seeing failure, we begin to see feedback. Instead of feeling defeated by our mistakes, we begin to see them as stepping stones to something greater. I've seen this shift happen in so many people's lives. People who, at first glance, seemed like they had everything stacked against them, but who, when they changed their perspective, found a new sense of purpose, resilience, and determination. They found ways to turn their struggles into sources of strength. It's a choice we all can make, no matter where we start. Perspective is like a muscle. It's something we can train, strengthen, and develop over time. And just like physical strength, the more we practice, the more natural it becomes to see the possibilities rather than the limitations. For example, when something goes wrong, many of us instinctively focus on the negatives, why it happened, what went wrong, how unfair it is. But imagine if instead we asked ourselves, what can I learn from this? How can this challenge help me become better? That shift might not immediately make the situation easier, but it will help us move forward in a way that's constructive and empowering. Changing your perspective doesn't mean ignoring the difficulties, pretending they don't exist, or minimizing your feelings. It's about recognizing that even in the hardest times, we have the power to choose how we react. We have the ability to find meaning, to grow, and to move towards something better. It's the recognition that life doesn't happen to us, it happens with us, and that we have a role to play in shaping the narrative. When we embrace the power of perspective, we stop seeing ourselves as victims of our circumstances and start seeing ourselves as the authors of our own stories. And when we take ownership of our perspective, we reclaim our power. At the end of the day, we can't control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we respond. And in that choice, we hold the power to transform our lives, to find hope in the most unexpected places, and to rise above our challenges, no matter how great they may seem. Let me know if you'd like me to continue or adjust any part. Hope is one of those things that's often underestimated, yet it is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful forces in our lives. When life feels overwhelming, when the road ahead seems uncertain, it's hope that can make all the difference. It's hope that allows us to keep going when we don't have all the answers. It's hope that whispers to us, just take one more step, even when the path feels impossible to walk. Hope isn't about being native or ignoring the reality of difficult situations. It's about choosing to believe that there's a way forward even when we can't see it yet. I've experienced firsthand the incredible power that hope has to transform lives. There have been times in my own life when I felt like I was at my breaking point. When I looked around, all I could see were obstacles. I couldn't always control the things happening to me, and I didn't always know how to fix what felt broken. But in those moments, I held on to hope. I didn't always know what hope would look like in the end. I didn't know how things would turn out or what the future would bring. But hope was what kept me moving, even when I didn't have the strength to do it on my own. Hope doesn't always show up in grand gestures. It's not always dramatic or earth-shattering. Sometimes it shows up in the smallest of things, the quiet belief that tomorrow might be a little better, or the simple thought that if we just keep trying, we might find our way. And sometimes it's just the knowledge that we don't have to figure everything out all at once. Hope gives us the grace to take things one day at a time, to trust that even in the hardest moments, we are not alone. One of the most important things I've learned about hope is that it isn't passive. It's not just sitting back and waiting for things to get better. Hope is active. It's a choice we make every single day. It's deciding that despite the challenges we face, we are going to keep moving forward. It's the courage to say, I don't know what's coming next, but I'm going to keep going anyway. And every step we take in hope makes us stronger. Every time we rise up, despite the difficulties, we grow in resilience, in faith, and in belief that better days are ahead. When hope is present, everything changes. It shifts our perspective on hardship. It helps us see that we aren't defined by the difficulties we face, but by how we respond to them. Hope helps us rise above our circumstances instead of being crushed by them. It allows us to see beyond the pain and the struggle, to trust that there is a purpose, a lesson, or a breakthrough waiting for us if we just keep going. Hope gives us the strength to keep moving forward, even when we don't know how. And hope is contagious. When we hold on to hope, it inspires others around us to do the same. It creates a ripple effect that spreads to those who may be struggling as well. When we offer our hope to others, when we share our belief in what's possible, we lift each other up. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give to someone who's struggling is the reminder that there is hope, that things can change, and that better days are ahead. Hope also teaches us to be patient with ourselves. It's easy to get discouraged when things don't move as quickly as we want, or when the road ahead seems longer than we expected. But hope reminds us that growth takes time, that healing isn't linear, and that sometimes the progress we're making is invisible to the eye. As long as we're moving forward, no matter how slowly, we are making progress. Hope doesn't demand immediate results. It allows us to trust that the seeds we're planting today will bear fruit tomorrow. Ultimately, hope is what makes us human. It's the thread that connects us to our future, that reminds us of what's possible even in the most uncertain of times. It's the fuel that drives us when everything else seems to be running dry. And it's the light that helps us find our way out of the darkness. So no matter where you are right now in your journey, no matter what challenges you may be facing, hold on to hope. It's not just a feeling, it's a choice, a force that can transform your life. Hope is what will carry you through the hardest times, and it's what will help you see the beauty, the possibility, and the strength that exists even in the midst of struggle. Keep hope alive, because it is the key to finding your way through every storm and to building a future that's worth living. Let me know if you'd like to expand any part of this or need further adjustments. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we experience as human beings. It can grip us in ways that stop us in our tracks, hold us back from pursuing our dreams, and convince us that we're not capable of moving forward. It has a way of convincing us that we're not enough, that we're not strong enough, or that we don't have what it takes to overcome the challenges in front of us. But what I've learned over the years is that fear, while natural, is not the enemy. It's not the fear itself that holds us back, but our response to it. I've been afraid many times in my life. There have been moments when the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown, and even the fear of my own inadequacies felt overwhelming. I remember looking at the future and wondering how I could possibly take the next step when I couldn't see a clear path forward. Fear whispered that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't belong, or that I wasn't capable of achieving the things I wanted. It paralyzed me with doubt. It made me question every decision I made, every choice I considered. And yet the truth is that the fear I was feeling wasn't the real obstacle. The real challenge was learning how to push through it. What I've discovered is that fear doesn't go away by avoiding it. The more we try to run from it, the more it follows us and the bigger it seems to grow. But when we face fear head on, when we acknowledge it and say, I see you, but you will not control me, something incredible happens. Fear begins to lose its power over us. It doesn't disappear entirely, but it no longer dictates our actions. It no longer holds us back from pursuing what we truly desire. One of the most liberating realizations I've had is that fear is often a signal, not of weakness, but of growth. Whenever I felt afraid, it's usually because I was stepping into something new, something outside my comfort zone. And growth happens when we push beyond those boundaries, when we confront the things that scare us. Fear is often a sign that we're on the edge of something powerful, something that can change us for the better. If we can shift our perspective and see fear as a signal that we are expanding, rather than a barrier to our progress, it can become a powerful motivator. Overcoming fear doesn't mean being fearless, it means learning how to act despite fear. It's about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And that doesn't just apply to big, life-changing moments, it applies to the everyday decisions we make. Every time you push past your fear, you become stronger, more resilient. Every time you take that next step in the face of uncertainty, you prove to yourself that you are capable, that you have what it takes to rise above whatever challenges life throws at you. I know that fear can feel like a brick wall standing between us and our dreams, but what I've learned is that it's not the wall that stops us, it's the belief that we can't get through it. Fear may be loud, it may be persistent, but it doesn't have to be permanent. We have the ability to choose how we respond to it. The more we face our fears, the smaller they become. And the more we take action, even in the midst of fear, the more we begin to see that fear has no real hold on us. Overcoming fear also requires patience and self-compassion. Fear doesn't always go away overnight, and it's okay to feel afraid. What's important is that we don't let it control us. It's about taking one small step at a time, knowing that even when we feel afraid, we are still making progress. And with each step, the fear becomes less intimidating. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff. The first step is always the hardest. But once you take it, you realize that the view is worth it, that you're capable of more than you ever thought possible. When we stop allowing fear to define our actions, we start to redefine what's possible for ourselves. We begin to see that the things that once seemed insurmountable aren't as big as they appeared. We discover the strength that resides within us, the courage that comes from choosing to move forward, even when the outcome is uncertain. And in doing so, we become the people we were always meant to be, the ones who rise above the fears that once held us back and create lives that are full of purpose and possibility. So if you find yourself standing in the face of fear, I want you to remember this fear is not a signal to stop, but a signal to stop, but a sign that you're on the verge of something meaningful. Embrace it. Step into it. Keep going. Because on the other side of fear is growth, freedom, and the fulfillment that comes from knowing you were brave enough to keep moving forward, even when it was hard. Let me know if you'd like me to continue or adjust anything. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that we need to make big, dramatic changes to see any real progress in life. We often look at others who seem to be succeeding, achieving their dreams, or making a difference, and we think to ourselves, why can't I do that? We set lofty goals, we dream of massive transformations, and we push ourselves to take giant leaps forward. But what I've come to understand is that the most powerful progress isn't always about making huge strides. It's about taking small steps day by day toward the life we want to create. The power of small steps lies in their consistency. It's not always about the one big leap, but about committing to move forward, even if the progress is barely noticeable. When you break things down into manageable, bite-sized actions, the task at hand doesn't feel so overwhelming. Instead of focusing on the mountain that seems impossible to climb, you can focus on putting one foot in front of the other. Each small step builds upon the last, and before you know it, you're much further along than you ever imagined. I think about how many times in my own life I've had to remind myself that even the smallest movement counts. When I faced some of my greatest challenges, I couldn't always see the end goal clearly, and there were moments when I felt like giving up. But I realized that it wasn't about getting everything perfect. It was about showing up, even if it was just a little bit at a time. Even when I couldn't see the progress, those small steps were adding up. And eventually they led me to places I never thought possible. Small steps are also forgiving. Life is unpredictable, and there will be times when you stumble, when things don't go according to plan. But when you focus on small, incremental progress, it's easy to get back on track after a setback. You don't need to start over from scratch. The key is to keep moving forward, even if it's just a little at a time. Each step, no matter how small, is progress. The beauty of small steps is that they build momentum. At first, it might feel like you're not going anywhere, but the more you take those steps, the more confident you become in your ability to move forward. One small victory leads to another, and before you know it, you've created a pattern of success. It's like learning to ride a bike. You start by wobbling and taking slow, cautious turns. But eventually, the more you practice, the smoother the ride becomes. Another reason small steps matter is that they allow us to be present in the process. So often we're so focused on the end goal that we forget to appreciate the journey. We think that happiness or success lies in the finish line, when in reality it's found in the little moments along the way. Each step, each piece of progress, no matter how small, is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to celebrate how far you've come. Small steps also teach us to be patient with ourselves. In a world that often values instant gratification, it can be hard to accept that meaningful change takes time. But when we learn to embrace the small steps, we start to understand that growth isn't always immediate, and that's okay. It's not about how quickly we get there. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, and trusting that over time, those small steps will lead us to something greater than we ever imagined. So if you're feeling discouraged, if the road ahead seems too long or too difficult, remember this: every step you take, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. You don't need to see the whole picture right now. You don't need to know exactly where the path leads. Just take that first step, then the next one, and the next. Each small decision, each little action is adding up to something big. And before you know it, you'll have created the momentum you need to push through any challenge and reach your goals, one step at a time. In the end, it's the small steps that matter most. They're the ones that shape who we are and who we become. So don't underestimate the power of taking it one day, one moment, one step at a time. Trust that every small effort counts. And over time, you'll look back and realize that those small steps were, in fact, the foundation of everything you've achieved. Let me know if you'd like me to continue or adjust any part. Faith and belief are often words we hear thrown around, but their true power isn't always understood. We think of faith in many different ways. Some might associate it with religion, others with confidence in themselves or in the people around them. But no matter how you define it, faith and belief are the bedrock of everything we do in life. They shape our reality, our decisions, and our ability to face the challenges that come our way. I've come to realize that faith isn't just about believing in something beyond ourselves, it's about trusting in the process. Even when we don't have all the answers, there have been countless moments in my life when I was unsure, uncertain of what the future would bring. In those times, faith was the thing that carried me through. It wasn't the absence of fear or doubt, it was the willingness to keep moving forward despite them. Faith, in its truest sense, isn't about certainty, it's about trust. It's the trust that, even when the path ahead is unclear, something greater is guiding you forward. Faith is not just about believing in a better future, it's also about believing in yourself. Many times, the hardest thing is trusting that we are enough, that we have what it takes to handle what life throws at us. There have been times when I didn't know if I could keep going, times when it felt like the challenges were just too great. But it was faith, the belief that I had the inner strength to overcome, to rise above, and to keep moving that made all the difference. When you believe in yourself, you open the door to possibilities that would otherwise remain closed. You give yourself permission to try, to fail, and to try again. Faith in your own abilities is the foundation of resilience because it's this belief that helps you get back up after every fall. Belief also has a way of shaping our reality. The things we believe about ourselves, about the world, and about what's possible are the things we manifest. If you believe that you're not good enough, that things will never change, then your actions will align with that belief. You will approach life with a sense of defeat, as though you're not worthy of success or happiness. But when you shift your belief, when you start to see yourself as capable, as someone who can make a difference, something incredible happens. You begin to act in ways that align with that belief. You start making decisions that reflect your worth and your potential. Belief isn't just wishful thinking, it's the force that drives our actions and propels us toward our goals. One of the most powerful things about faith and belief is that they create momentum. When you believe in something, anything, you are willing to take the steps to make it real. Even the smallest amount of faith can lead to the most significant changes. When you believe that better days are ahead, you begin to take actions that reflect that belief. It's not about having everything figured out, it's about having the courage to start, even when you don't know how it will end. And that momentum builds over time, creating a cycle of growth, confidence, and achievement. Faith also plays a crucial role when it comes to handling adversity. Life is full of ups and downs, and the ability to navigate those moments often comes down to how much faith we have in ourselves and in the process. When things are tough, it's easy to feel like the world is against you, to feel like nothing will ever improve. But in those moments, faith acts as a stabilizer. It reminds you that struggles are not permanent, that challenges are part of the journey, and that you are capable of handling whatever comes your way. Faith doesn't mean that things will always go the way you want, but it does mean that you trust there is a purpose in the struggle, and that something positive can come from it, even if it's not immediately clear. Belief also ties into our ability to stay hopeful. Hope and faith are intertwined, because without faith, hope can feel like a wish. Faith gives hope substance, it turns it into something tangible, something that we can hold on to when the world around us is chaotic. Hope is the belief that tomorrow can be better than today, and faith is the action that makes it possible. It's what keeps us going when the odds seem stacked against us. With faith, we begin to trust that no matter how difficult the journey, there is always a way forward. There are moments in life when our faith will be tested, when it will feel like everything is falling apart. In those moments, the strength of our belief is what carries us through. It's not about having all the answers or knowing exactly how things will turn out. It's about trusting that we are on the right path, that we are capable of overcoming, and that the future holds the possibility of something greater. When you hold on to your faith, you give yourself the power to rise above anything that comes your way. You give yourself the courage to keep going, even when it feels like the world is telling you to stop. In the end, faith and belief are what fuel our journey. They are the quiet force that pushes us forward, even in the face of uncertainty. They are the foundation upon which we build our lives, the reason we get up every day, even when we don't have all the answers. Faith is not about having everything figured out. It's about having the trust, the hope, and the belief that we are capable of handling whatever life throws our way. And when we have that, nothing can stop us from achieving the life we are meant to create. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments or further expansion on this. Helping others is one of the most fulfilling and transformative things we can do in life. We often think of helping others as an act of charity or kindness, something we do to make a positive impact on someone else. And while that's certainly part of it, the truth is that when we help others, we end up helping ourselves in ways we might not even realize. There is a profound sense of purpose that comes from lifting others up, and the ripple effect of that help spreads far beyond what we can see. As we reflect on the journey of resilience and hope, we realize that they are not just abstract concepts, but powerful tools that shape our everyday lives. The struggles we face, no matter how daunting, are not roadblocks, but stepping stones to the lives we are meant to live. It's through resilience that we learn to rise after each fall. And it's through hope that we find the strength to keep going, even when the path ahead is unclear. We've talked about the power of perspective, the importance of faith, and the simple yet profound impact of small steps. We've seen that by helping others, we not only lift them, but we also lift ourselves. Gratitude reminds us that even in our darkest moments, there is always something to be thankful for, and it's this gratitude that helps us cultivate a mindset of abundance, kindness, and growth. Every one of these elements, resilience, hope, faith, helping others, and gratitude forms the foundation of a fulfilled life. Life will always have its ups and downs, its challenges and triumphs, but the key to living a fulfilled life lies in how we approach each moment. The way we view our struggles, the way we respond to adversity, and the way we choose to help and support others shapes our journey. And through it all, if we choose to live with resilience and hope, we find not just a way to survive, but a way to thrive. So let us hold on to hope, trust in the power of small steps, and live each day with gratitude in our hearts. Let's help others along the way, knowing that by lifting them, we are lifting ourselves. And above all, let's remember that a fulfilled life is not defined by what we achieve, but by the love we give, the hope we carry, and the strength we find within ourselves, no matter the circumstances,